The Pinebrook community was everything a suburban family could ask for. Neatly trimmed lawns, a gated entrance, and neighbors who waved at each other, at least on the surface. Tucked away on the edge of the city, it was home to 78 houses, each managed under the watchful eye of the Pinebrook Homeowners Association, better known as the HOA. For most residents, the rules seemed like a fair trade-off for safety and order, until the day those rules began to feel like a leash. Among those residents was Mr. Thomas, a retired high school principal who'd recently moved into Pinebrook with his wife to enjoy peaceful days and garden in his backyard. But he soon learned that the HOA wasn't just about maintaining common areas. No, they had a say in everything, from the color of your front door to the number of flower pots on your porch. And when Mr. Thomas received his first warning letter over a wind chime that was deemed too loud, the silent tension between homeowners and the HOA had officially begun. It was just a wind chime, or so Mr. Thomas thought. Hanging near the porch, it chimed gently with the breeze, an innocent addition to his peaceful mornings. But the HOA's letter described it as a nuisance to community harmony. Enclosed with the letter was a photo taken without Mr. Thomas's knowledge, and a $25 fine if the chime wasn't removed within 48 hours. Fuming, Mr. Thomas attended the next HOA meeting at the community center, where he was met with stiff smiles and clipped explanations. The president of the HOA, Mrs. Darla Hensley, reminded everyone that the rules were meant for the greater good. Thomas left the meeting disillusioned, but not defeated. He wasn't the only one with grievances. Just the first to speak up, word spread quickly through Pinebrook. In grocery store aisles and during morning dog walks, neighbors whispered about their own run-ins with the HOA. Mrs. Ramirez had been fined for a Halloween wreath that wasn't removed by November 1st. A teenage boy had received a warning for parking slightly over the edge of his driveway. Each story was small, but together they painted a larger picture, one of control, not community. A secret meeting was held in Mr. Thomas's garage one evening. 12 residents showed up, each holding a crumpled letter or a fine they found unfair. Some wanted to fight back, others simply wanted to be heard. But all agreed, something had to change. Inspired by the unity in his garage, Mr. Thomas and a few neighbors drafted a petition demanding a revision of the HOA bylaws. They didn't seek chaos, just fairness. The petition quickly gathered signatures, even from longtime residents who had stayed silent out of fear or apathy. When the petition was presented to the HOA board, Mrs. Hensley's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We will take this under consideration," she said coldly. But the board didn't meet again for another month, and in the meantime, new violations kept appearing on mailboxes like clockwork. It wasn't long before residents who had signed the petition began receiving random fines. One homeowner, a widower named Mr. Jenkins, was cited for improper mailbox placement, a box that had stood unchanged for 12 years. Teenagers started getting warnings for excess noise during weekend basketball games. The message was clear: resist, and you'll pay. But the retaliation backfired. More neighbors, even those previously indifferent, began voicing concerns. One young couple even started a blog titled Pinebrook Unplugged, detailing every absurd rule and fine. What had started as scattered frustration was slowly turning into organized resistance. It was the blog Pinebrook Unplugged that uncovered a startling truth. Hidden cameras were installed on light poles throughout the community. While the HOA claimed they were for safety monitoring, residents were unsettled to discover their every move might be under watch. Videos of minor violations, like a dog not leashed for a few seconds or trash bins placed outside 15 minutes early, started being attached to violation notices. This revelation shocked many who had remained on the sidelines. Cameras without consent felt like a betrayal. Parents grew anxious about their children playing outside. Even those who once supported the HOA began questioning how far was too far. The teenagers of Pinebrook, tired of being fined for harmless noise or skateboarding on empty sidewalks, organized a peaceful protest. Dressed in matching t-shirts that read, "We live here too," they marched to the HOA office on a Saturday morning. Their parents watched with pride, some joining the protest themselves. HOA board members were clearly caught off guard. Mrs. Hensley avoided the crowd altogether, claiming a personal emergency. The protest didn't end the rules overnight, but it sparked something deeper: hope. The youth had spoken, and the neighborhood listened. Behind closed doors, not all HOA members supported Mrs. Hensley's heavy-handed policies. Board member Raj Patel, a software engineer who had lived in Pinebrook for over a decade, started pushing for transparency and reform. He believed in rules, but not blind enforcement. Raj proposed a temporary freeze on issuing fines and a full community survey to gather feedback. But Mrs. Hensley and her closest allies blocked the vote. Still, whispers of change had entered the boardroom. Raj quietly began working with residents to organize a community-wide election. December arrived, and with it came Pinebrook's strict holiday decoration rules. Residents were allowed to decorate no earlier than December 15th and had to remove everything by January 2nd. When the Martins, an elderly couple, put up lights a week early for their visiting grandchildren, they received a $100 fine. This time, the community was outraged. The Martins had lived in Pinebrook since it was first built and were beloved by all. Neighbors, in a show of unity, decorated their homes in defiance. On the same day, the neighborhood sparkled with lights and inflatable reindeer, a silent rebellion against control. With each act of unity, the HOA's grip began to loosen. Residents stopped paying small fines. The HOA's lawyers sent warnings, but the residents now had legal backing from a pro bono firm, arranged by Mr. Patel's contacts. The firm began investigating whether the HOA was exceeding its legal boundaries. The balance of power was shifting. The upcoming HOA board elections, usually quiet, with barely anyone voting, suddenly became the hottest event in town. Homemade signs dotted front yards. Slogans like "Take Back Pinebrook" and "Rules with Reason" became the new rallying cry. For the first time in Pinebrook history, residents actually lined up to vote in the HOA board elections. What was once a formality had turned into a full-blown community event. Lawn signs, flyers, and even door-to-door campaigns filled the usually quiet streets. The opposition, led by Raj Patel and supported by Mr. Thomas, ran on a simple platform: fairness, transparency, and resident inclusion. Mrs. Hensley, clearly rattled by the growing unrest, doubled down on her rules. Her campaign called the opposition an emotional mob and warned of chaos without structure. But the tone backfired. People didn't want chaos. They just wanted to feel like they belonged in their own neighborhood again. When the results came in, they were overwhelming. Raj Patel won the presidency of the HOA with a landslide, and 3 other reform-minded candidates were voted onto the board. Mrs. Hensley, red-faced and speechless, was forced to step down. Some said she cried in her car afterward, but no one could confirm it. The new board immediately suspended all outstanding fines and announced a community-wide forum where residents could voice their concerns and ideas. It felt like fresh air had entered Pinebrook for the first time in years. Still, not everyone was happy. A few of Hensley's loyalists vowed to protect the neighborhood from what they saw as leniency. Even with new leadership, change didn't come easily. Some former board members refused to hand over records. Others accused the new board of being too soft when a resident painted their house a bold teal color, technically still against the old design rules. The board needed time to rewrite the outdated bylaws, but for some, any relaxation of standards felt like the beginning of anarchy. Mr. Thomas urged patience at every meeting. "This isn't about breaking rules," he said. "It's about making better ones together." His words resonated, but it was clear that healing from years of overreach would take more than just new faces in charge. In an effort to rebuild trust and togetherness, the new HOA board organized Pinebrook's first-ever community cleanup and celebration day. Residents of all ages pitched in, trimming hedges, repainting fences, cleaning sidewalks. What began as a practical task turned into a full-fledged celebration with food trucks, music, and kids running through sprinklers. It wasn't just a cleanup, it was a reset. For the first time, neighbors who had barely known each other were talking, laughing, and sharing stories. A few even said it felt like the neighborhood they'd hoped Pinebrook would be when they first moved in. Just when it seemed like peace had returned, Mrs. Hensley reappeared at a public board meeting. Dressed in her usual pearl earrings and tight bun, she requested to speak during the open forum. The room fell silent. With surprising calm, she stated she wanted to volunteer for the landscaping committee. Some thought she was trying to sneak her way back into power. Others saw it as an act of humility. Raj accepted her offer under one condition, that she would work under the new rules, with no special authority. She agreed. And while trust would take time, her return was seen by many as the ultimate symbol that Pinebrook was, finally, beginning to heal. The teal house at the corner of Pine Avenue became a symbol of change and conflict. Painted by the newlyweds Anna and Jordan, the house divided the neighborhood. Some called it charming and modern, while others claimed it clashed with the classic Pinebrook aesthetic. Under the old rules, it would have been an automatic violation. At the next board meeting, residents filled the room, debating passionately. Raj proposed a compromise: create a community design council made up of residents who could vote on future color guidelines. It passed. And the teal house? It was voted to stay. Democracy had officially reached Pinebrook's front doors. The first open community dinner was held in the park under strings of lights. Every household brought a dish, and folding tables overflowed with casseroles, curries, and cookies. Children played tag on the grass while parents swapped stories over lemonade and burgers. Mrs. Hensley even brought her famous peach cobbler and sat beside Mr. Thomas, who complimented it without irony. "It's funny," she said, "how rules can sometimes make us forget why we made them in the first place." It wasn't an apology, but it was close. Raj initiated a new tradition: monthly listening sessions where no rules were passed, no fines issued, just stories, concerns, and ideas. One by one, people began opening up. A single mother talked about struggling to keep her yard maintained. An elderly man admitted he didn't understand the online voting system. Teenagers spoke about wanting more safe places to hang out. Each voice shaped the new Pinebrook. Not every idea was implemented, but each was heard. And that, more than any rule or regulation, was what people had truly longed for all along. 1 year after the infamous wind chime violation, Pinebrook was unrecognizable in the best way. Rules still existed, but they were rooted in common sense and compassion. The HOA became something new, a partner, not a parent. Residents took pride in their homes, not out of fear, but because they finally felt it was their community. Mr. Thomas still had his wind chime, now joined by a small hummingbird feeder. Teenagers played basketball at a court built by community donation. And even Mrs. Hensley, now retired from all committees, was often seen walking her dog and chatting kindly with neighbors. One quiet evening, Mr. Thomas sat on his porch, watching the sun set while his wind chime sang softly in the breeze. It was the same chime that had sparked everything, yet now it hung unnoticed, peacefully part of the neighborhood soundscape. As a pair of kids biked past and waved, he smiled. Pinebrook had weathered its storm, not by choosing sides, but by choosing each other. And in that simple, shared choice, the true spirit of community had finally come home.